After my divorce was finalized, I drove across town to return the one thing my ex-wife left behind. And that was when she locked her door and said the words that shattered everything I thought I knew. I never wanted a divorce. I just didn't know how to ask you to stay. I'm Daniel Hayes, an architect who designs warm, beautiful homes for other families. But I couldn't see the cracks splitting open in my own marriage. For 7 years, I loved Claire Bennett, a pediatric nurse who could comfort any frightened child, but went silent and cold with me. So when she filed for divorce, when she signed the papers without a tear, I let her go, because I believed I was the husband she'd stopped loving. But now her door is locked. Now she's standing in my old sweater, telling me she never wanted any of it. And every certainty I built my heartbreak on is crumbling at my feet. If she never wanted the divorce, then why did she file? Why did she let me sign away 7 years without a single word? And what was she so afraid of that she'd rather lose me than simply ask me to stay? The piano sat in the back of my truck the whole drive over. 400 pounds of dark walnut wood, strapped down under a moving blanket, rattling softly over every bump in the road. Her grandmother's piano, the one she learned Clair de Lune on as a little girl. The one she somehow forgot when she packed up 7 years of our life into cardboard boxes. People don't forget a thing like that by accident. I knew it the moment the movers told me it was still in the corner of our empty house, sitting there in the dust where the afternoon light used to fall. A woman remembers her grandmother's piano, unless some buried part of her is still holding on to where it belongs. I told myself it was just furniture. I told myself I was just being decent. But my hands were shaking on the steering wheel, and decent men don't shake. Her apartment building was small and beige, the kind of place you move into when you're starting over and trying not to feel it. I wheeled the piano up the ramp on a dolly, my breath fogging in the cold evening air. The hallway smelled like someone else's dinner. Garlic, onions, a life I wasn't part of anymore. I knocked. When the door opened, the whole world went quiet. She was wearing my sweater, the gray one with the frayed cuff, the one I'd torn looking for after the move and never found. She had it on like armor, sleeves swallowing her hands, and when she saw what stood behind me, her face cracked right down the middle. "You kept it," she whispered. "It was always yours," I said. I wheeled it inside. Her apartment was so empty it echoed. A couch, a lamp, a single coffee mug drying by the sink. The life of a woman who hadn't unpacked because some part of her hadn't decided to stay. I set the piano against the wall, careful, gentle, the way you'd set down something sleeping. And then I did the hardest thing I'd done in 3 months. I turned to leave, because that was the deal. You sign the papers, you return the piano, you walk away and you let her have the future she chose without you. I made it 2 steps. Then I heard the door close behind me. And I heard the lock turn. I stopped. I turned around slowly, and she was standing there with her back pressed against the door, her hand still on the bolt, her eyes shining and terrified and fierce all at once. "Claire?" My voice came out rough. "What are you doing?" "I never wanted the divorce." The words hit me like cold water. I actually stepped back. I never wanted it. "Daniel," her chin was trembling now, but she didn't look away. "I just didn't know how to ask you to stay. I didn't know how to want you out loud, and I have been standing on the other side of this door in my head for 3 months, watching you walk away, screaming for you to turn around, and I never once said it where you could hear me." The room tilted under my feet, because for 3 months I had built my entire grief on one single belief, that she had stopped loving me, that I was the husband she'd outgrown. I had signed those papers like a man falling on his own sword, telling myself it was mercy, telling myself that loving her meant letting her go to whatever made her happy, even if it wasn't me. And now she was telling me the sword had been pointed the wrong way the whole time. "You filed," I said. The word barely made it out. You filed for the divorce. You signed first. You didn't cry. Claire, I watched you. You signed your name, and you slid the pen back across the table like it was nothing. Like I was nothing. I cried in the car. Her voice broke. I cried so hard I couldn't drive. I sat in that parking lot for an hour, Daniel. I just made sure you never saw it. I always made sure you never saw it. I felt something in my chest start to come apart. 7 years. 7 years of sleeping next to this woman, of building a life with her, of loving her. And I never once knew she had a whole hidden country of grief inside her that she would not let me enter. Why? It was the only word I had left. If you didn't want it, if you were crying in parking lots, why would you do this to us? Why would you rather lose me than just ask? And Claire looked at me, this woman who could calm any frightened child in the world, but had never once let me calm her. And she opened her mouth to tell me the thing she had been hiding for 35 years. Because of my mother, she said. And just like that, the fight went out of her. She slid down the door until she was sitting on the floor, knees pulled up, swallowed in my old sweater, looking smaller than I had ever seen her. I lowered myself down across from her. The piano stood over us both like a witness. When I was 9, she said quietly, I watched my mother beg my father to stay. I mean really beg, Daniel. On the kitchen floor, holding onto his leg while he tried to walk out the door. She said, please, please, I'll be better. Just don't leave us, please. I was at the top of the stairs and I saw the whole thing. Her eyes were somewhere far away now, back in that house, on those stairs. And do you know what he did? He shook her off his leg like she was nothing, like she was something stuck to his shoe. And he left anyway. He left while she was still saying please. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I swore, right there, she whispered, at 9 years old, that I would never beg a man to stay, that I would never let anyone see me on that floor, that I would rather lose everything with my head up than keep it on my knees. And suddenly, so much of the last 7 years rearranged itself in front of my eyes. Every time I'd reached for her and felt her pull back. Every time something was wrong and she'd said, I'm fine, in that flat, bright voice. Every cold silence I'd taken as proof she didn't care. None of it was a wall built to keep me out. It was a wall built to keep her own desperate, frightened heart from ever crawling across a kitchen floor. The night of your birthday, I said slowly, as the memory rose up. You cooked. You waited. She flinched, so she remembered it too. I had that deadline, I said. The Hendersons' house. I called and said I'd be late, and you said it was fine. You said, don't worry about it. And I believed you, Claire. I worked until midnight, and when I got home, all the lights were off, and the food was in the trash, and you were already asleep. I blew out the candle by myself, she said. Her voice was barely there now. I sat at the table in the dark and I waited and you didn't come. And I thought, there it is. There's the proof. He doesn't choose me. And if I ask him to, if I say please, I'll be on the floor. I'll be my mother. A tear slid down her cheek and dropped onto my sweater. So I stopped asking for anything, she said. I stopped reaching. I told myself, if you really wanted me, you'd just know. You'd just stay without being asked. And every day you didn't read my mind. It felt like proof you didn't love me. And I kept score, Daniel, for years, in silence, where you could never defend yourself, because you didn't even know there was a game. I pressed the heels of my hands into my eyes, because here was the unbearable, beautiful truth of it. We had both been starving at the same table. She thought I didn't choose her, and I had spent 7 years convinced she was too good for me, too warm and bright. A woman who would obviously wake up one day and realize she could do better. I missed your birthday because I was scared, I said. She looked up. I was building the Hendersons' house, and it had to be perfect, because every house I build, I'm secretly thinking, if I'm good enough, if I'm successful enough, she won't leave. I worked late because I thought I was earning the right to keep you. My voice cracked. I wasn't choosing the work over you, Claire. In my broken head, I thought the work was how I was choosing you, and it cost me the one night you needed me to just be there. We sat in silence. The garlic smell drifted under the door. Somewhere in the building, a child laughed. When you filed, I said. I signed, because I thought it was what you wanted. I thought, she's finally free of a man who's never quite enough. I let you go, because I thought leaving was the last kind thing I could do for you. Claire let out a sound that was half a laugh and half a sob. We're idiots, she whispered. We're two complete idiots who love each other. Yeah, I said. And I felt myself smiling even as my eyes burned. We really are. But then the smile faded from her face, and the fear came back into her eyes, and she pulled her knees in tighter. But knowing why doesn't fix it, she said softly. I'm still the woman who'd rather lose you than ask you to stay. That's still inside me, Daniel. What happens the next time I get scared? What happens the next time I get scared? What happens the next time I work late and I go quiet? I don't know how to be different. I've been this way since I was 9 years old. And there it was, the real wall. Not the divorce, not the silence, but her terror that she was broken in a way that couldn't be mended. I looked at her. Then I looked at the piano standing against the wall. And I knew, suddenly, exactly what I had to do. The thing I had been secretly practicing for 2 anniversaries and had never once found the courage to show her. I got up off the floor. I crossed the room, and I sat down on the piano bench. Claire watched me, confused, wiping her face with the frayed sweater cuff. "What are you doing?" she asked. I didn't answer. I just lifted the lid, rested my clumsy hands on those old worn keys, and took a breath that shook all the way down. And then I played. Badly. 3 wrong notes in the first 8 bars. My fingers were stiff and nervous, and they stumbled over each other like they always had. But I kept going, because the song coming out of that old piano, broken and clumsy as it was Claire de Lune. Her grandmother's song. Claire went completely still on the floor. "I've been learning it for 2 years," I said, not stopping. My eyes fixed on the keys so I wouldn't lose my nerve. "I started before our 5th anniversary. I was going to surprise you. I wanted to sit you down and play your grandmother's song and watch your face. A wrong note." I kept going. But I was never good enough. It was never perfect. So I kept waiting. 1 more month of practice. 1 more month until it was ready. I finally looked up at her. "That's the whole story of us, Claire. I kept everything locked inside, waiting until I was good enough to deserve to show you. And you kept everything locked inside, waiting for me to read your mind. We were both standing in the same dark room, holding the same candle, too scared to strike the match." Tears were streaming down her face now, but she was smiling. She got up off the floor slowly, crossed the room, and sat down beside me on the bench, the way she used to, her shoulder warm against mine. "You hit 3 wrong notes," she whispered. "I know. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard." And in that moment, I understood what those broken notes meant to her. They meant I had been reaching for her too, the whole time, in my own silent, clumsy, frightened language. They meant she had never been starving alone. "I don't want to grow apart," she said, resting her head on my shoulder. "I'm so tired of being strong in the dark. I want to grow toward you, slowly, for real this time, out loud, even when I'm scared, especially when I'm scared." "Then here's what we do," I said. "When you go quiet, I don't disappear into a wall. I knock, every single time. And when I work too late, you don't keep score in silence. You call me, and you say, 'Daniel, come home.' That's not begging, Claire. That's not your mother on the floor. That's 2 people choosing each other on purpose. Every day, with words. With words," she said, like a promise. "We didn't fix 7 years that night. I want to be honest with you about that. Because real love isn't a magic spell. It's a decision you make again and again." We started slow. A standing Thursday dinner. Just the 2 of us. Where the only rule was that we had to say one true thing out loud. The first few were hard. Her hands shook. So did mine. Then came couples counseling, where Claire finally said out loud, in front of someone, the thing about the kitchen floor and the word please. She cried so hard the therapist had to pause, and I held her hand the entire time and did not let go, so she would know, in her body, that there is a kind of man who stays. Then came a new lease with both our names on it. And 11 months after the night she locked that door, we got married again. A small wedding in my sister's backyard, just the people who loved us. White chairs on green grass, the smell of cut flowers and warm summer air. We hauled the piano out onto the lawn. And in front of everyone, I sat down and I played Claire de Lune, all the way through this time. Every note, no mistakes. Because I'd finally stopped waiting to be perfect, and somewhere in all that practice, I'd actually learned the ending. Claire stood beside me in a simple white dress, my grandmother-in-law's song lifting up into the trees, and she was crying and laughing at the same time, the way you do when your heart is too full to pick just one. When I finished, she leaned down and whispered in my ear. "You came back for the piano," she said, "but I think we both know you came back for me." "I did," I told her, "and I always will. You never have to ask. And here's the most beautiful part, the part I think about every single day. She never has to ask me to stay, and I never have to wait to be good enough. We just choose each other, out loud, every morning. The two idiots who almost lost everything to silence, and found each other again, because of one forgotten piano and one locked door. So let me ask you something, and I really want you to sit with it for a moment. How many people in your life are quietly waiting for you to read their mind? How many "I'm fines" have you believed because it was easier than knocking on the door? And is there someone right now, a partner, a parent, a friend, who needs to hear the words you've been holding inside, waiting for the perfect moment that may never come? Don't wait until you're good enough. Don't keep score in the dark. Say the words today. If this story touched your heart, do something for me. Tap that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next story that reminds you what love is really made of. Because the right person isn't the one who reads your mind. It's the one who keeps knocking on your door,